everyone, and thank you for joining us on the very first episode of the WrestlePod. Your hosts today and moving forward are yours truly, Fog Jones, at the Fog Jones on X or Twitter, and my good friend and colleague, the Mask J, at underscore wrestle on X/Twitter, and that's underscore WRSTL. What's up, man?
Not much, man. Just another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise, another month that goes by, and wrestling is crazy. Good for us, terrible for the business.
Absolutely tragic for the business. I mean, just thinking of the people that we've lost,
Yeah.
all the people that have been fired for
Yep.
good or for bad. Yeah, it's just been a wild, wild month.
Yeah. And that's what we're here to talk about, right? We're going to talk about the good, the bad, all of it, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna have some fun with it and
Cool.
make fun of some people. You know,
Like each
occasionally
other.
we'll have guests, and yes, definitely are each other. We will definitely make fun
Yeah.
of each other.
And that's what we want to do here. There's a lot of wrestling podcasts out there, right? There's probably like
Oh God,
796,000 at this point,
there's so
roughly.
many.
And that's cool, man. I mean, I love a lot of them. I follow a lot of them as much as I can. But at the end of the day, this one's going to be very fun. It's going to be a little different in that we're going to have as many guests as we can get, hosts, guest hosts, as well as interviews as time comes up. And then we really just want to focus on opinions as a whole of wrestling, but respectfully, right?
Yeah,
Having fun with
within
it, and
reason.
we're not gonna yeah, and we're not gonna sit here and tell you every single chop that happened on a Monday Night Raw. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna go over the highlights and just kind of dig into what seems important and what seems like it's just floundering, right?
Which there's a lot of that going around right now.
Yeah, we hit on it before we hit record, didn't we? So
Yeah. It was well, but you want to kick things off? Let's go.
yeah, let's talk about CM Punk. What do you think about CM
Oh my
Punk?
God. All right, so
Yeah,
Punk is a great wrestler.
yeah,
Really, great wrestler in
yeah,
his prime. Mix
sure.
that with the fact that he has a bad attitude. Okay. At
So
the
we're
end of the
told.
day, CM Punk fired himself.
That's what it seems
What
like.
happened, of course, with Jack Perry and before
Yeah,
that, the Elite, issues with Tony Khan. I mean,
yeah.
fuck, you hear it all over Twitter or X, whatever. You've heard it all over other podcasts. It's all the same thing. At the end of the day, you know what? Punk fired himself.
Yeah.
Even if Jack Perry instigated it, even if the Elite keep pushing on it, and I have my own issues with the Bucks because I just don't think they're as good as they think they are. But that's
They
okay.
don't come off as the most mature people too, but continue your
Not
thought.
not at all.
Yeah.
They they come off as bitter because they just aren't making it. They don't move numbers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Punk at least helped move numbers, though ratings nowadays are just eh, kind of in the mud.
So I'm gonna say a few things, and I probably should have opened this with a little backstory on myself as such as you, but like just I mean, there's not a whole heck of a lot to say. Like I'm a Laps fan. I watched as a kid, and we'll talk about that. Maybe we don't have time today, but maybe on another episode we talk about like why I just stopped watching as a kid. But I started rewatching about I'd say four. It was right around the time where Drew was feuding with Dolph Ziggler, and leading into that heel turn that was, I guess, like really a babyface turn, and then he main evented WrestleMania during the pandemic. So that's kind of my time frame. And when I stopped watching was around the time that Kane was unmasked, just to give that landmark for people. And then you,
Wow.
correct me if I'm wrong, you're more of a hardcore fan. You watch you got a pulse on even the indies, right? I know you watch Impact, but you still have a pulse on all of it, right?
Hey, don't call Impact Wrestling fucking indies.
I didn't say that. I said you watch
Yeah, I
Impact, but you
know
have
you're
a
gonna
pulse on the indies too.
first episode. You're going downhill real
I
quick.
would say AEW is more of the indie inviter than Impact.
I've
Impact kind of operates as like a low level WWE, whereas AEW works like a indie show with a couple of their homegrown. I mean that right?
well, I guess
We'll
I
talk
don't
about it.
consider any of the three WWE, AEW, Impact. Those are the big three in
The big three.
the North America.
And
Uh,
you watch all of it though, and
I
you
do.
have and you
I
also
attempt to
know a
watch
lot
all
more
of
about
it.
the indies.
I know some of the indies.
Yeah.
I know I try to keep a pulse on like Beyond Wrestling
Yeah.
and a few others out there, especially anything close to my side of the world, which
Yeah.
is whatever. But the,
Yeah.
But
And
no,
again,
I've been
we'll talk about that more, because you have more of an in, I guess is my point, is like you know more about the inner workings of the industry, and dare I say, even potentially have some sources, right? So
we're not going to talk about those
we
sources.
won't we won't talk about
I
that.
don't look. I've been a fan for over 20 years of wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, I started watching WWE and WCW
Oh
in the
yeah.
high life of
Yeah. Same.
the Monday Night Wars.
Hmm.
I really never stopped being a fan. I never really stopped watching so much as I just kind of switched over to just catching highlights on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then I came back to watch more.
You get that burnout. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Keep an eye
there
on it,
was
but you
some
get that
wrestling
burnout.
burnout, but man, it's never been better than right now, to be honest
Right.
with you. And yeah,
Yeah.
I know do talk to some people within in
Yeah.
WWE. I I have spoken with Rob Fee.
Yeah.
Usually, I try not to push for like Rob. I've never asked him once
Sure.
for any inside source or news or anything
Yep.
because Rob has just been really great. And despite the fact that he's head of long term creative,
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
would just be stupid of me to ruin a friendship over
Yeah.
some minor fucking leak. Like, oh shit, this guy's coming back. Who cares? Let people
Yeah.
be
Eh,
surprised, and that's why I kind of stopped. I stopped personally introducing leaks into X and
yes.
everywhere else. I just don't want to do it.
And that's kind of why I wanted to take this short segue, because we are talking about CM Punk, but at the same time, like I think it's fair for people to understand that you have the ability to do what a lot of those zero news sources type out there do, where
Oh,
they just kind of
uh,
spread information, whether it's
my
true or
blood
false.
just
And
started to
so,
boil when you said zero
so
news.
I
We're
gotcha.
okay. I'll quickly touch base. Zero was able to get rundowns from another Twitter user, X user,
Mhm.
Boozer. Everybody should know
Yeah.
who Boozer is for the most part.
Mhm.
That's how he got his rundowns for the longest time. He claims he has family within WWE.
Mhm.
There's never been proof of that. Uh, he's been wrong on pretty much every single PLE
Yeah.
event
Yeah.
where he is like, oh, this person's coming or they're doing this,
Mhm.
which leads me to believe personally that he has zero sources. He was using Boozer to get the rundowns early. He might have been stealing stuff from other people, and that's fine. I mean, if he
Yeah.
wants to get his clout, go for it, man. Go for it.
Yep.
That's perfectly fine. But always got to be as honest as possible with, especially with
Yeah.
people on X, because eventually you're found out, and
You get
eventually you're
caught.
proven to be a fraud.
You
That's
get
why he
caught.
gets his engagement is mostly hate.
Yes. Yeah.
People making
And
fun of him, man.
And I think it's important. Again, I mean, we just took a long segue off the CM Punk topic, but it's important because like people
Yeah,
don't
we did.
really know us quite that well, right? Like they see I'm a heat seeker on Twitter. I'm trying to, I'm not out there to try and get hate, but I just know that my opinions are weird. But at the same time, like when we talk about these things, you have a better pulse on whether or not something's true. I look at it very skeptically, if that's a word, where I'm looking at it saying like what we're about to talk about with CM Punk. Like I don't know if it's true because I don't
It's
know
true.
who's a legitimate source. So let's talk about it, right? So here's what we know. So I watched that scrum, that media scrum with Brawl Out, right? The
Oh yeah,
original,
yeah, yeah.
the
The original one that caused all the problems that led to Punk walking or the Elite walking into CM Punk's locker room and
yeah,
all hell broke loose. Whatever. That
yeah,
was mostly okay. So as far as I can tell, that's all true. Uh,
yeah,
the best source for that is going to be Sean Ross Sapp.
yeah,
Like period.
yeah,
Even today's news with the firing of Punk and all that,
yeah,
Sean is going to be your best source, and I know
yeah.
that he gets a lot of hate from people. Um,
For his
and
personality, I'd say more
yeah,
than his
and
reporting, and
that's
that's fair.
fine.
I mean, we're all going to get hate. People are going to hate the hell out of me, and that's fine. I love it. Like just
And personally, I actually like when Sean attacks people that
fine.
attack him. I think it's
Yeah,
funny. It's
and
hilarious.
yeah, right. I mean, he's like Ice Cube of the IWC in a way. Like he's coming
Exactly.
at you.
Absolutely. And
So
but that's that. Punk. But Punk. On to keeping on that topic.
yeah, and
Punk
since then, right,
is
Brawl Out happened.
blah. He's
It's a
probably going to
mess,
come
right?
back
And
to wrestling. I do not know where. I know Impact Wrestling is very interested. or excited, to say the least.
Yeah, that's what they say, right?
Nobody really wants him back in WWE outside of a
Right.
few higher ups. So it's very possible we could see him there. It's definitely possible. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one.
I'm not holding my breath.
And
I
we haven't
think it's
heard if
WWE
there's,
or retirement. That's my opinion.
yeah,
But
maybe. And there's been no news about a non-complete Pete clause or anything of the
yeah,
such.
yeah.
So we don't know if he can just jump over right away to the next episode of Raw or SmackDown and surprise the world. No, we have no clue.
So what I want to chat on real quick, because I have some thoughts on him going to WWE, and to be honest, from a business perspective, I'm not opposed to it. But like, so from Brawl Out, as a again more of a casual fan, but follows the backstage stuff. When I watched that, I was like, this guy, to me, what I'm seeing is he was given a lot of power by his boss. I'm seeing a guy who was basically told like, you're in charge in a way, and you can do what you want, say what you want, and or rather someone who maybe wasn't given the reins or the key to the castle, but was never put in check. And therefore you see a guy who's blasting his coworkers every chance he gets on live TV, in a way the opposite of a Cody Rhodes, who Cody can't do an interview and they'll ask him something about his dog and he'll be like, Gunther's the greatest intercontinental champion of all time. And you're like, okay, we're going to put over the rest of the roster. And CM Punk was kind of functioning as the opposite of that, like just to kind of talk crap about a Hangman Adam Page, calling his coworkers children, and they may or may not be, but that
I
argument
mean, the
can be
Bucks
taken
are.
anywhere. But the
Uh,
way he puts it, he dumped all over the whole
oh,
roster, right?
oh,
So
absolutely. Well,
that,
I mean, he attacked mainly the elite,
yes,
Omega,
yeah,
Hangman, the Bucks.
right,
Those were the top ones
yeah,
that he just straight up said, "F you."
hmm,
These guys are kids. And you know what? They kind of are at times, and that's
yeah,
okay. I mean, stay useful while you can. The
sure.
other thing is, pretty sure that they were the ones that were leaking a bunch of backstage stuff. I mean, it's never been confirmed. I'm
I've
not going
heard
to be able to
that.
confirm it,
Yep, I've heard that.
but it really wouldn't surprise me. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
Uh, but nevertheless, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Punk's gone.
Yeah,
AEW is going to have to pick and choose the next top tier talent because right now they have Brian Danielson. Sorry,
yeah.
and while he's amazing in every way, he is
We have roughly less than a year left of him.
exactly, and he will be retiring or slowing down to a point where he has like a Brock Lesnar schedule, and
Yep.
that's not going to help AEW. They need something
No.
now.
Yeah. There's another thing that you've said recently, and I felt this way. I've never really come out and just said it because I wasn't totally sure. Because you see all this stuff, like a lot of the podcasters in that time frame where I think it was a good year of a run up, where people were really hearing rumors that CM Punk was signing with AEW, and then closer to that 3 month point, we were kind of getting it confirmed, and then it happened, and I kept hearing the phrase needle mover, right? And it was used so much regarding CM Punk that Roman Reigns had a t-shirt called the real needle mover, I believe is
Yeah,
what it said
yeah,
on
yeah.
there. And hilarious, right? Because
It's funny.
hard to debate. And that's coming from someone who's not a
Yeah, I know
fan.
you have your issues with
So
the bloodline.
like you, how do you argue with the fact, right? But you said something, and I want to say it was just a couple days ago, and oh, it was probably in the Discord or maybe just a general chat on X. And the statement was basically saying that there are no individual needle movers now. It's really the story, and I'm going to throw in production that's being presented to you on screen. And I
Yep.
think that's the best way to put it. And the reason I say that is because when you see a John Cena show up, you see maybe 300,000 people extra on a Raw or SmackDown.
Oh, at least.
That's not, yeah, and John Cena is a tough one to choose because he's a huge name in the world. It's like The Rock, right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, you're not breaking records still. You're still not hitting on Raw, right? They sit around
What?
1.6, 1.7,
Well,
but you're
okay.
not seeing 3 mil. You're not going to see like a
You're
3
never gonna see that
mil.
again.
You're never going to see it. And that's for a
Mm-mm.
lot of reasons too, right? But what I'm saying is with an AEW, with the absence of a CM Punk who might have given them that 500K baseline for a collision, And yes, it's dropping. I don't think that that's just a CM Punk thing. I think
It's
that's
not.
because CM Punk was successful in AEW because he was telling his own story. He has experience in that, just like a Brian Danielson does, and some of these. Sorry, ex WWE guys like Miro when he was TNT champion. That boy was telling a story, and I was captivated. Um, anyway, so my point here is I think what AEW needs to do without CM Punk is exactly what you're saying. They have to really truly figure out how to get these stories to build stars. And if you look at a Darby Allin or even a Brian Cage, two total opposites of what AEW has been in the past, they've failed miserably. Or probably the best example, Wardlow. Give me your thoughts, man. I threw a
Ugh.
lot at you.
All
Give me
right.
your
So
thoughts.
first and foremost, yes, absolutely. Storylines and production value are going to drive the ratings going forward. It's not
Yeah,
just one star. It's
right.
not going to be one star ever.
Yeah.
Not again. I mean, and
Not
even back
Mox
in
or
like the
Kenny. Yeah.
Attitude Era, you had The Rock, you had Austin, you had The Undertaker, you had Triple H, you had Shawn Michaels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they were all kind of just there in the main event scene at any point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plug and play, right? Swap them
Exactly.
out. Sub a guy.
But having said that, AEW needs to pick that top star, like I said, beyond Brian Danielson, and they need to basically build stories around this star at the
Yeah.
same time building stories around the rest of its roster. One issue that Tony Khan has, in my opinion, is 100% just the storylines.
Yeah.
He does not know how to keep them going as far as
Yeah.
long term. He they're not interesting. And I know they have a creative team now, from what I hear. I don't know who exactly. I can't confirm it
Do you know the
myself.
size of it roughly? Because
8 people or
WWE is
something
known
like
to have
that.
like 8 people.
I've heard 8 people. I've heard six.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know
That's
anybody
better than one.
within AEW, but yeah, it seems that they have something going as far as
Okay.
who's helping Tony write these stories, but they need to like really pump it and they need to be compelling. They need to be
Yes.
telling something, and
Yeah.
they're just not, which is why, like you touched based on AEW, the collision ratings. Collision
Yeah.
ratings are dropping, and they're going to
Yeah.
continue to drop
Yeah.
until they find just their solid hardcore base, kind of like Dynamite has at this point. And
Yeah.
even Dynamite's, I mean, year over year, you're looking at a huge drop. No matter how you
For
look at it, it's
Dynamite.
a drop.
You're talking Dynamite now.
Oh, you're gonna dig it up? Yeah, look at
I'm
year
going to
over
pull it up, but
year,
you're
man.
you're talking year. Yeah, and so and going back to that whole needle mover thing, like I'm going to say two things, and man, tear me up. If you think I'm wrong, tear me up.
I
Roman
will.
Reigns
Needle mover,
in the bloodline.
even without it.
Okay, so the big dog. I wasn't watching when the
He
big
is
dog was
he
around.
is the star of the show. When
Okay,
he is
so he's the face of the
on the
company.
show, he is the face, he is the star, and he has proven that he could absolutely just handle that. He is this generation's John Cena, for better
Okay,
or for worse, whatever.
okay, and you're gonna be the one who knows that because again I wasn't watching. I didn't see much. You know what I
It's
mean?
slowly. I
So
mean, obviously, it's changing.
yeah, but at the same time, so I guess the thing I was going to touch on is like my understanding of the fan base, the just even the WWE universe, because I do believe that there's a huge disconnect with the IWC and the WWE universe, and I always say when those stars align, something's going really friggin' right. And Roman Reigns to me is the stars aligning because the IWC almost collectively agreed with the WWE universe, and so like the disconnect was the IWC when he was the big dog. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, he was selling merch, top merch mover. It was like between him and Bray.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, the IWC hated the big dog because he was like this super Cena kind of push, right? So,
Yep.
but now with the bloodline, it's like match made in heaven. The IWC loves him. Maybe not so much right now. A lot of people think that that story
Less
is kind of,
now. People are
yeah,
they're not
it's
letting.
aging badly a little
Yeah.
bit,
Well, it's
right?
aging badly because they're not patient enough for this. Long term
Yeah.
booking once again is just it will come into play, and a lot of people are just not used to long term booking or don't want
Yeah.
long term booking either. For this, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
but speaking of like stars aligning
Yes.
with the IWC, with wrestling in general, casuals, everything. You got L.A. Knight.
Bro.
Yeah,
What? Uh, Listen, if you hate LA Knight, I think you hate the business
yeah, you definitely hate
because,
wrestling at that point.
well, listen, this guy's 40 and he's fresh on the main roster at 40. And a lot of people can say, you can say whatever you want. I'm going to respect anyone's opinion unless it's harsh or like rude or whatever.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, I see a guy, I'm looking at him. I'm not even looking at the business so much, but I'm looking at him saying, this guy held on, dude. His story's cool too. Like he was there and he wasn't ready and he knows it now. He had opportunities. They called him back. And at the time, I believe it was during the pandemic. He joined back during the pandemic, but I think a little bit before that, he talked about how just he was making the money that he wasn't going to get doing developmental NXT. You know what I mean? And so he kind of held off. So, but when you're 40, upper 30s, and you're just not in the WWE super succeeding or in an AEW, right? Perseverance, bro. And
yeah.
here he
I mean,
is.
he preserved, he waited, he bided his time, and the man is outselling pretty much everyone at this point.
That's what I hear.
Man, when is
And his viewership, right? When you get those
it's
quarterly
massive.
hours, they're finding his segments are bumping a couple hundred K.
Yep.
So, and
LA
going
Knight
back to the
moves.
Bucks, right? You were talking about, you're saying the Bucks aren't as good as they think they are. Well,
True.
from what I'm hearing, their segments are dropping viewers these days.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to pull up all the data and stuff from
Right. We don't have the data in
WrestleNomics,
front of us.
and
Yeah.
absolutely, as far as I can tell from quarterly breakdowns, yeah, Bucks tend to drop. And again,
Crazy.
it's I think the fan base can kind of see through them. They know that they're going to put on a show at a pay-per-view event.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, they do. They can super
Absolutely.
kick their party all the way around the block, whatever, and they will.
And it's going to
But
happen. You don't get a choice
they're
on that one,
boring.
bro.
They're boring.
Character wise, right?
Yeah, character wise, they're
Yeah.
boring.
Character
They were
wise.
better as heels, and even character wise as a heel, they I found them boring. I don't
Yeah.
think they're as good as they think they are. I'm gonna get a lot of hate, and the AEW stands are gonna go fucking crazy on me right now.
Yeah. And that's all good,
And
bro.
I'm
They're going to,
sorry,
whatever.
it's just my opinion. The
Yeah.
Bucks are not as good as they think, or as what
Yeah.
some of you may think they are. End of
That's the
story.
beauty of pro wrestling, though. Wrestling is a story. It's just like, and the thing is about giving
A love
someone hate
story.
for it. It's a love story, and there's more than one royal family, from what I hear. But
There's two.
there's only two.
There's two.
Yeah, so with wrestling though, it's an opinion, right? It's like you
Yep.
like or don't like Starbucks. That's your opinion, bro. Like
People
leave
like
it.
Starbucks, bro.
Yeah, there's like five people out there, and
It's
they're
like five little valley girls.
and you know what? Once a day, that's where they make their profit. So,
Damn right.
uh, and that's the thing is in wrestling, especially with the IWC, it's like you have to all like the same person. It's like, God forbid, I'm not a Roman fan. I
Really.
find I respect the story. I respect what Roman's done, and I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I fully respect his schedule. As a dad, you're a dad, you got two kids, I got a kid, I got a family.
Yep.
I fully respect the schedule, and this is why I think AEW is so good for businesses. Because if I was a wrestler, I'd probably want to go to AEW for the schedule alone.
Yeah, I mean, I love that there is a secondary promotion out there.
Yeah,
Again, I'm going to get some hate for that wording, but
but it
I love
is
it. I
don't
really
like
do.
it
I
is a
mean,
secondary
hell, the
promotion.
moment Wrestle Dream tickets freaking popped up, I was
Yeah,
right
you're
there waiting
going,
and going. I'm going. I'm floor
and you've
seats
been
to
to
Wrestle
another
Dream.
AEW shows,
Yeah,
right?
I've been to Dynamite out here in
Okay,
Seattle, and then of course, I've been to my WWE shows. I went to
sure,
TLC back in years ago with my wife, and
yeah.
we saw John Moxley, Dean Ambrose cash in
Oh,
and
cool. You were there
get the
for that.
title. I was there for that. We were
That's
up in
so cool,
way in
man.
the rafters, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah, whatever.
It
It's
was
all good.
fun. It was exciting. I love wrestling in general, and
Yeah,
I wish Impact Wrestling would come up this way more. I would
yeah,
absolutely go in a heartbeat. I love the business. I love the sport. I love
yeah.
learning about the backstage stuff. I
Yeah.
do,
Oh, it's
but I
so
love
fun.
the
It is fun.
stories that
Yes.
wrestling can create, and which you just don't get a lot of good stories anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and escaping from the reality of the real world, in the case like with
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
going on out there, man, just sit back, watch, turn on the wrestling show, and just enjoy yourself as escape.
Enjoy it.
And that's
There's
what I
something to
love.
be appreciated too in general from no matter what company that you're following. And that's the thing is too, like I can be a pretty sensitive person when it comes to like family and money and things like that and making a livelihood. And I think that's
Right.
probably where the disconnect occurs with the IWC and where you get people that are so tribalistic towards WWE or AEW. And maybe we should have prefaced the show by saying we love the business in general, which I think we kind of said it, but like just in
In a way.
general, I love all wrestling companies for one reason. Despite the fact that I only watch a little bit in comparison to the average fan. I love them all because someone's working. There are production people feeding families. There are wrestlers feeding families. There's an option out there. So you get fired or just simply don't like the WWE schedule. You got AEW and Impact, or you could hit the indies up, and there's even other promotions out there. So like anything that we say, I think is very important for viewers, listeners to kind of take away. Like we want these companies to succeed. I want WWE, AEW, Impact, you name it, Ring of Honor. I want them all to have 10 million
That's
viewers
the
a night.
Ring of Honor is all elite wrestling, just so you know. Same thing.
But it's not going to get the same viewership, just like an NXT is not going to get what SmackDown
That's because they
gets.
don't actually have a show.
So that's what I'm saying. I want all the shows to have 10 million viewers a night on TV,
I
but
would
it's not going to
absolutely
happen.
love that. I
It's not going to
honestly,
happen.
Tony needs to take Rampage and just strictly cut that into a ROH show. That would be best for that, and would help expose more talent that are on the ROH the ROH brand.
Yeah. And in fairness, it does oftentimes feel like Tony Khan is taking what he can and he's not taking the time to critically think about it. And like here's where I'm going with that. When they first announced Rampage, a casual fan such as myself with some business sense, sure, but that doesn't necessarily matter because I haven't had my eyes on wrestling for, 15 years straight. It's been like 4. But as a business thinker and as a fan, I could have told you day one it was going to fail because it's a Friday night at 10 o'clock. You're going to
Oh
get
yeah,
hardcore wrestling fans. You're not going to get mainstream watchers. And therefore, there's your chance for your developmental, not your secondary TV show, because you're kind of telling the world in a way, if you're putting a show on a Friday night at 10 o'clock at night, you're kind of telling people we ain't it. The time
yeah.
slot
I
we
mean,
deserve,
and that's
not a prime time slot.
Warner Brothers Discovery,
Yeah,
WBD. They're a huge fan of AEW. They really are.
great.
It's
until
insane.
the, until there's
More power to
zero
them, and
viewers.
I'm sure they're going to get another shoot rights deal. Okay, they're going
Yeah,
to get another deal. They are, and that's good. I think that's great. Like you said, I want every promotion to succeed. Okay, I may
absolutely.
bicker and smash at Tony Khan and
Yeah,
AEW ratings, stories. I'd
yeah,
love to talk trash about it, but
yeah,
the reality is, I want those stars to succeed, and I want to just
yeah.
see that damn company improve finally. That's what I
Yes,
want. It's been
yes,
multiple years, and I want to see them grow. All they've
yes,
done is reach a certain demographic, and they can't grow. They just can't, or they're not. I mean, yeah, you got the exception, which is Wembley. That's a lot of the excuses that I hear is, oh, you know what? It's because of Wembley, or sorry, what I should say is that's what the AEW stands are utilizing to say for growth. Okay,
yeah.
they're growing because, oh, we just broke a historical wrestling record at a stadium. Of course you did. When was the last time Wembley had a wrestling event?
And to be fair, in order to really make that comparison or analysis, you have to have WWE book the same stadium.
Yep.
And honestly, I wouldn't even throw WrestleMania there. I would throw a Money
Mm.
in the Bank there or a
One of the big four.
Elimination Chamber. Yeah,
I'd put Royal
Survivor
Rumble in
Series.
there,
Rumble, bro, Rumble. The
and
the
Rumble's
biggest
always fun.
Yeah, the Rumble's probably the most fun of any
But
pay-per-view, isn't it? Because you get a
it should
surprise
be
every minute.
WrestleMania. You know why? Because All In is their biggest yearly event now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you need to
where
put
it
the
should be.
biggest yearly event for WWE right in that same stadium and see what
Yeah.
happens. That's how
They'll
you can
sell it
actually
out.
compare.
They're no doubt they'll sell it out. And again, these are not stabs at AEW. This is me and the rest of the fans begging them to just move in the right direction. It doesn't have to be
Bro,
for just like us. This is our first episode, right? We're figuring things out.
yeah,
My
this shit's
arm's
gonna
gonna
be fun.
glitch. You're gonna have pieces of me cut off if I do this. We're learning, right? And but
Woo!
we're gonna grow. We're gonna invest in this to make this better every single time we do it. And that's what we want from everyone. And I'm gonna make a weird analogy, and some people might hate it, but if you go to a Texas Roadhouse or any restaurant and you order a steak, it might not be the same as the last time you went, and therefore you're gonna say, "Hey, that wasn't that good." Why can't we do that with wrestling?
Yeah,
We do it with Raw and SmackDown.
all the time.
We're
I will
constantly
be the
going
first
like,
to call out WWE for anything that is
absolutely,
bad. I
yeah,
mean, Maximum Male Models, when that first
oh
came
yeah,
out, horrible.
you
I
know
mean,
it,
it grew on me, but it was horrible when it first came out.
yeah. Hey,
The whole
listen,
idea.
LA Knight actually turned that into something you wanted to
Oh,
see,
all of them,
and
everybody
the
involved with that,
second he left that group,
they
dead,
disappeared.
and they saw it. They're like, get Maxine out of here. Partner her with anyone. Have her looking at Otis.
She's
There you
doing
go.
really good in American Alpha.
Fantastic,
I mean,
fantastic.
really good. I mean, she adds
Yeah.
to that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too. And we could talk about bloodline because I think that's the big thing is groups need
Yeah,
dynamic and the dynamic has to change. And if you were to take the Alpha Academy, I don't think they'd be thriving as much right now without Maxine Dupree. And it's not even like she's this fantastic wrestler or
I would
personality.
disagree with that.
You're watching her grow on TV and she's adding a layer to both Otis,
Otis.
and Chad Gable. Just the fact that she does the thank you, it's like she's putting Chad Gable over. You know what I'm saying? Like it just adds that dynamic. Just like putting Sami Zayn in the bloodline made it watchable. It was finally watchable when
That
they
was
had Sami
cinema.
Zayn.
Cinema.
Cinema. Listen, that was so good. I'm not even kidding you. Again, heat seeking here, but I used to skip 100 because I a lot it's a lot I don't like commercials. You put Monday
Yeah.
Night Raw on, it's a 3 hour show with like an hour and a half of commercials. At least that's what it feels like. I'd watch on Hulu SmackDown. I'll watch it on Hulu because they don't cut anything on that. And bro, any member of the bloodline, skip. I'm good. Nothing to see. But you put
We're
Sami Zayn in
clearly gonna
there,
have
we're
problems.
watching every moment. Yeah, someone's gonna find me.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Someone's gonna find me. Thanks a
I'm gonna
lot.
find you, and we're gonna have
You're
a
gonna
long
find me.
discussion. No, Bloodline is great. Judgment
Yeah.
Day is amazing. Outside of the
Yeah.
fact that they're being kind of washed out, not washed out. What is it? They're being overused right now on TV,
Yeah.
but for reasons, and it's working. I mean, the whole Judgment Day is going great. Obviously, Rhea has catapulted to like superstardom with this.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see Rhea.
Talk about
I mean, I want to
organic.
see Rhea.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rhea's doing great. She's
think of
she's a true star.
the improvements from NXT days to here.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a massive star now,
Yeah,
and
she's a huge star.
yeah, she's the China of this generation, except for
Yeah.
dare I say better. I mean,
All things
really,
considered, I would say yeah. I mean, Rhea Ripley's a she. This there's a reason why you see people like wanting her in the ring with some of the male wrestlers, even though you saw that with China. I think with Rhea, it's because she just I'm going to say something and I'm going to try and word it very,
here we
very
go,
carefully
guys.
here. I'm going to say something. I'll try to word it very carefully. She stands out and it's not just for her look because she puts a lot of work. I appreciate the hell out of what she's doing, like bodybuilding wise. I know she's trying to grow her quads and good luck to her. But, you know, there's something about the WWE hiring process where it's not as consistent at times as it should be possibly. And when you have a Rhea Ripley or a Bianca Belair, they stand out. Like Bianca Belair, I'd have a hard if you asked me who my favorite is, I'd have a really hard time picking between Rhea and Bianca. And I also find them to be very similar and they're naturally talented. They're very good in the ring, but they're neither of them are exceptional on the microphone. They're okay. They can speak, but they're not like great. I'm going to caveat and say Rhea Ripley's growth on the microphone has been substantial. her recent Judgment Day work has been very good to watch on the microphone compared to her early Judgment Day work, where if you watch her, listen to her, she didn't seem as comfortable, and maybe she wasn't really fully set on what this group turns into. But I think now you're seeing like Rhea Ripley, as big of a star as she is like just now coming into her own in a way, you know?
Yep. I absolutely agree. Her work has been improving, especially on the
Yeah.
mic. I think a lot of that is thanks to like Finn Balor. Um, it's thanks to other veterans in the back, of course, that she's working with. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. I mean, you got Bloodline, you got JD, you got some good
Yeah.
two strong factions, and then
Yep.
in AEW, what do you have? You have the Elite, which full of big talent, right?
But what's the story with the Elite? I can tell you the
Exactly.
story of the Judgment Day and the Bloodline all day. And
They
I
had a
think
story.
that's
They had a story. It was with the Bullet. What do you call it? Blackpool Combat Club. That was the story at that point. And
but
then
what was the
that's over.
story? They're fighting each other?
That was the story.
That's
Yes.
not a story.
I mean,
It's just
it
not
was a
it.
story-ish.
Right. But what I'm saying is the Bloodline has all these layers.
Yes.
And that's
Bloodline
where
has layers.
WWE is
Judgment Day is
so
actually,
crisp.
yeah,
Judgment
and
Day
that's the
was a
difference.
group that was kind of on the darker side. It was created through the mind of Edge. And the idea was to be something that he never was truly before, more of a leader now of this darker group. And then he captured all these proteges that he saw as superstar. Okay, are we over?
We are now.
Do you want to like so we're talking about like the difference here between WWE and AEW, and I've got AEW's historical viewership up. We could chat about that for a minute after this, but like,
Yeah.
so the big thing that I think really has always stood out with WWE is everything does kind of feel like a moment, and everything does feel like there's a spotlight on it. So, um, and to a fault at times, everyone needs to be a character. Where in many instances within AEW, what I appreciate is not everyone has to be a character, and I think that they're kind of realizing that with WWE these days. You know, because I remember like as a kid, like there was never a need for an Isaac Yankem, but they just wanted a dentist character. Like so, and that's what I'm talking about. Everyone had to be you had to be a clown or a plumber or a crazy person. You had to be
Yeah.
even. I mean, Kane never wasn't a character. Let's be real. Kane was a character, the ultimate character, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I can get behind that. But yes, I
and
get what you're saying. Back then, everybody was a big time character. They were
yeah,
larger than life characters. Now it's more real. I
it's
mean,
real,
it's
but
just
it's
real.
still characters. It's
Yes,
you still everyone still has to have this character, and that's
somewhat.
so important because it's almost like a super defined identity. Whereas in AEW, you either like them or you don't, and they wrestle and they promo on the mic, but there's nothing really to say. Like John Moxley,
Oh my God, I love Mox.
he's great.
He
He's a
is
great promo. He's great
one
in
of the
ring.
best acquisitions from
Yeah,
AEW, and
but he doesn't really have like he might
you
be
don't need
the
a
only
character.
like true character, like Kenny Omega, the cleaner, right? Like, what does that mean? What is
Oh
that?
man, he's the cleaner. I mean, you're gonna
What
piss off a lot of people with that one.
but
Uh,
what's he cleaning? I don't know anything
the
about it.
ring.
They've never taught me what that means. And it's never
That's
been
what
really
Google's
like,
for, my friend.
but I gotta Google to figure out
You got to Google it.
when you see Roman Reigns, not a second goes by where they don't call him the tribal chief, and that's his character.
Yep, exactly. And
There's his
I
character.
think AEW is going to get there. At least I would hope
I hope
so,
so.
because
I hope
again,
so.
I'm not saying they need to just cut their hardcore base and just cater directly to casuals, but I am saying they need to cater to some casuals because that's what's going to bring in more viewers. That's
Yeah.
what's going to bring in a bigger audience. I mean, look at their ticket sales. Outside
Yeah.
of Wembley, their ticket sales have declined. For the most
Yeah.
part, they have declined.
Yeah, if you follow WrestleTix, which I know you do, but
Oh yeah,
anyone out there who is interested in even what we're saying right now, that means you're interested in the business too. You got to follow WrestleTix. There's your plug. I didn't get paid for that. But you
I do.
gotta, if you look at WrestleTix on X, one of the great things about them is they show you everything you really need to know. And so they're showing you right now that an AEW Dynamite at an Arthur Ashe Stadium is selling this many tickets. And then they say last time here, this many tickets. And they're literally showing you this data. And you can see like a good, I'd say 30 to 40% drop in ticket sales year over year every time they're at an arena that or a place that they
Yeah,
were
I mean, and they just
previously.
kind of go to the same markets over and over and over. Yeah, I mean, they're getting
They're
tired of
just now
spending the
breaking into the
money, and
SoCal. Yeah.
I mean, they need to keep pushing. They
Yeah.
pushed. They finally came to Seattle, and I was able to go, and they
Yeah.
did almost. I think they did almost 10,000. No, they did a little over 8,800 tickets sold, I believe.
And what's that
When they
for?
Seattle Dynamite.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then right now for Wrestle Dream, I haven't gotten updated numbers yet, but I don't think they're even anywhere close to that. Mind you, there's
Yeah.
still some weeks, like 3 weeks to go
A lot of people
before.
last minute, I think, buy a lot of AEW stuff, whereas
Yeah,
WWE, they're trying to catch it now. And I think that's a lot to do with, I hear some people say they discount some of those tickets as it gets closer to the
as
date.
it gets closer,
Yeah.
the nosebleed section basically gets
Yeah.
discounted.
And they'll
And
kind of
yeah,
switch up the sections and what's open
they're
and
gonna
whatnot.
get a decent attendance. I just
Yeah.
hope that they break the 8820 or whatever the
Yeah.
heck it really was. I want them to hit over 10,000. The
I
stadium,
want them
or
to sell. I want them to sell more tickets than are available. I'm
yeah,
going to
the
say
arena
stuff like that
itself
over and over. I want
hit.
them to sell 20,000 tickets to a 10,000 ticket arena.
Yeah, I mean, they need to do something. I want them to
Yeah,
succeed. I want them to grow.
absolutely.
It's been enough time. The honeymoon phase is over.
Yes,
Fans should be pushing for change, for growth. And if you're not
and the
pushing,
pivotal.
then
Yeah,
you're not a real fan of AEW. No offense,
absolutely.
but you're just not. You need to
Exactly.
push. You need to push back
Push.
and say, no, this isn't good enough. I want better now.
Absolutely, because what you see on TV is going to determine whether you want to go see it live. Because let's be real, live is an experience, TV's better for viewing. It's like one
Yes.
of those things my dad used to always say, why would I go somewhere where I'm in the ring? Why would I go there? So you have to make them want to go and get a worse seat, but a better experience. And
Yep.
that's what's going to be on the TV. And like, I think there was this pivotal moment, and maybe this is what confused, I don't know if it's Tony Khan or just the whoever was kind of heading the ship, is that there was that pivotal moment in WWE when Vince McMahon, when he was booking those WWE shows through the pandemic, and then coming out of the pandemic, I'd say arguably got worse. You saw rematch after rematch, and it was just the storytelling was atrocious. Everything was spaghetti at the wall, and people were leaving, and they were doing mass terminations. And through all that, you had this super strong desire and almost like a burning need to recapture what you used to love about WWE or just something else because what you're watching is not good, right? So
Yep.
then AEW is acquiring all these big names from WWE that are either getting let go or just seeing how well AEW is doing. And that is what was pumping their ratings is you had to tune in. You're like, be honest with you, bro. I was waiting for Bray Wyatt to show up like every week. I was just
Oh
like,
man,
I was waiting for it.
they couldn't afford him. Unfortunately, I mean,
And
fortunately,
fine. But
I
I'm
just
just
don't think he
saying,
would have
I
been a good
was
fit there.
absolutely agreed. We could talk about that later, but like you had like Brian Danielson and Adam Cole show up on the same night, and those are big moments. You have CM Punk, all these debuts. Remember Keith Lee? I was so excited for Keith Lee's debut. Swerve.
Man,
We could go on, right? We could name all the
there was a
debuts, and
lot
those
of
were
good names, good talent that went over to AEW, and that's good. And then only for them to kind of just get this burst on the scene spotlight and
yeah,
then
quick
dwindle
pop.
away,
Yeah, quick pop, man.
dwindle away.
1.1016 viewers as opposed to
Yeah.
928 because people just want to see what's going on. Is this the next NWO, the Outsiders, or what's happening here?
It was like
And the
this big
problem
what
was,
if of WWE has invaded basically AEW in a sense.
yeah,
And they could have ran that. They could have absolutely ran something
who are
similar to
these
that.
people? Yeah, why is Keith Lee here? Or why is all these different people just showing up on AEW? Is there
No, but
something going
the
on? And
reality is what happened was every chance that these guys, ex WWE talent, came on board, it was just like this. Oh, we gotta make fun of my time, their time in
yes,
WWE. and
Yeah.
they used WWE in every little thing and made this big deal about
Yes.
them. And it's like you're
Yep.
promoting your competition constantly on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why?
I mean,
Ignore them.
Soraya, she did an
Move on.
interview and straight up told them, like, hey, I didn't want to do this promo, but I did it.
Yeah.
Just like she didn't want to stab at W because she's going to be inducted into their
Sh-
Hall of Fame. She'll
exactly.
probably end
It
up
was just
back
one of
there in a
those
couple
things
years.
that
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a Tony Khan decision or what, but the reality is they should have just ignored the past, moved on with the fact that, hey, we're here now. We're
Yeah.
going to take over and we're going to show you how great we are.
Yeah.
And a lot of
And
them are
it,
really, really great. It's just a shame that so many came on all at once, it seemed like.
yes.
And then it just kind of pushed everybody to the back and created some other issues, more drama. And then
Yeah.
Punk came in and then more drama. And now Punk is gone. And guess what? There's still going to be drama.
And I think it's very important to look at what I mentioned earlier that you recently said is that there's not a person that's moving the needle. It's really the production and well, I threw in production, but it's really um, the storytelling and whatnot. And
The
I
story.
wonder, part of me wonders is because, and maybe because Tony Khan just simply didn't have a creative team and wanted to give more freedom to the wrestlers while he did not have that creative team set up. But like what you're seeing is like they pop these ratings when even a Keith Lee, like all things considered, I love Keith Lee. I had super high hopes for him when he joined
I
AEW,
still
but
love him. Great guy.
of
Very
course,
smart.
oh, Keith Lee's brilliant. You hear that
Brilliant.
man speak, and I'm not gonna question him. And I think Keith Lee has all the makings of the perfect wrestler. I even think his promo work and even his character work is just fine. I think it's good. But I feel like Tony Khan brings in a Matt Hardy, a Keith Lee, John Moxley, tough one to point out because he's like their needle mover. Pac, whatever you want to call him, FTR, um,
Yeah. I mean,
Colt
you,
Cabana,
you
Lance
got a lot.
Archer, all these people that show up at AEW and they pop a quick rating because Adam Cole, because you're like, oh
Day
man, they
Day.
left WWE to AEW, like wow, and they pop this rating, and then it's kind of like, oh, that's what it is. It's this guy's gonna pop. No, it's not this guy. People are very curious as to what the heck is going on in the wrestling world. They're seeing almost like an exodus from the largest company in the world, and people are just coming on board. They're interested, like, what's going on? What's going on? But in the end, nobody. We talked about this. We were texting, and I get your point. Like Roman Reigns, if you brought a Roman over to AEW, okay, he's gonna pump some numbers, but for how
He
long?
will.
How long?
Until basically
Until they
someone
have
screws
no
up the
story for
story.
him. And there's no story for him either. Just like again, Miro's making his own story, and it just so
Oh
happens that
yeah.
he's good at making his own stories. You
You
know
could
what I'm
have.
saying? I think you get the idea. At the end of the
I get the
day,
idea.
we live in an age where you do have needle movers. It's rare though. It's rare. Like LA Knight is like the only true, like I'd say, needle mover um in WWE outside of a Roman. But for how
Uh,
long? You're gonna say
yeah.
Cody, aren't you?
I mean, Cody. I mean, how
Cody's
could you
on Raw,
forget
bro.
Cody?
People forget Cody is like he's more, I see him as like an anchor at this point because I'm not seeing Raw hit 2 mil. I'm seeing 1.6 as a 1.7. So
I mean,
I
you
think
got
fans
stiff
love him.
competition for Monday nights, man.
You
And even
do,
before
but
that, I mean, they were hitting over 2 mil.
yeah, I mean, pandemic wise, when supposedly everyone was tuning out, they were 1.8 to 2.2 pretty commonly.
Yeah, so much for that.
Um,
Everybody's leaving cable. I mean, yeah, people subscribers are dropping, but you know what? WWE's like, hold my beer.
Look at Friday Night SmackDown, easily
Oh my
pulling
God.
2.2 to 2.5, like easily. Like do
2.6,
it. No
2.7. I
Roman.
mean,
Yeah, Roman's on their 2.6 easy. Sometimes 2.8s. I think they
game
hit a
on.
3 when Cena showed up one time, maybe a few months back. But like,
Yeah, they were, I believe it was a
it's
little
their
over three.
storytelling, and SmackDown just does a great job these days with telling stories. It's very clean. It's articulated. It makes sense. You're getting the same superstars on each episode, so you look forward to seeing an LA Knight. You look forward to seeing the Bloodline. Whereas on AEW, I tune in. I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't know what I'm about to see. I'm hoping to see Darby Allin. I'm hoping to see Brian Cage, one of my favorites. I'm hoping to
Here we
see a
go with this.
Wardlow. I'm hoping to see MJF and Adam Cole, baby, and all their stars. But I don't know what I'm going to get. Ricky Starks, is he there or not? I don't know. He
I
might
mean,
be on
I
that
mean,
show.
if you
Might
just
not.
open up Twitter, go to AEW's Twitter, they usually have a full breakdown of what's going to happen for the show. There, they
But
they
my
put a
point
nice,
is,
pretty graphic.
it's not guaranteed that it's going to be the same stars as every other
True,
Wednesday with more character development. You get like a Wardlow, for example. What in the world? Like,
he dropped the ball.
how do you fumble Wardlow?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure that one out myself. Wardlow was at one point probably the hottest star in AEW,
You could have put the
and
belt on him, probably, right? The world
they
title.
blew it. Yeah, oh,
And
absolutely.
they
I
have
mean, I
the
would have made that
story's
call.
easy bake oven, bro. MJF is your champion. It's easy bake oven. It's right there, dog. It's right there.
Right freaking there. And you
But what are we
dropped
doing?
it, and there it is. Now,
Why is he not on
where
TV?
is he?
Who's writing his story? And that's the thing is I just don't think
PK.
there's anyone writing the story or just thinking like, bro, I got a notepad right here. Write my 15 featured wrestlers on Dynamite, my 15 featured wrestlers on Collision. What am I doing for those 15 people every
Right.
single? They don't have to be on every episode, right? Roman's on every episode of SmackDown.
No, I mean, as
Doesn't
you
have
saw
to
just
be.
recently, he was not on because
Yeah.
they have Judgment Day. Or
Yeah.
in AEW's case, I mean, you got MJF and Adam Cole, but you know what? Flip it up. Put the women up there.
Yeah. And that story's working because they're making it work.
Yep.
I don't know who's creating it. I don't know who sent them to
Oh man,
Outback
it's
Steakhouse, but it's a good story. I'm tuning
MJF
back
and
in
Adam
for it.
Cole is the best thing in AEW right now.
And two questions. What happens when that's over? And what happens when that's over?
Yeah, exactly. What's to replace it? What's going to make
Spaghetti at
the
the
people
wall.
pop?
Let's hope it works. Let's hope it works.
So what do we think? I mean,
We need storytelling here, right? We and not just in a vacuum, not just looking at just what happens with MJF or what happens with Adam Cole. Like personally, I don't know if Adam Cole is the next world champion, to be honest with you. I think in the future, maybe.
ooh,
But I just think I think the story's there for it.
yeah.
But if this was a year and a half ago, I'd probably say pull the trigger. But I just think with what's happening with AEW right now, I wonder if they need a stronger name as champion.
Well,
I
who do they have?
still think Bryan Danielson should have been made a champion. I still think he should have been the world
I'm not
champion.
going to disagree with that. I still think he might get it. I hope he gets
Yeah.
it for his final bit of time left on his,
He's a
wrestling
good enough name.
career.
And I think they
Let it
did a
happen.
disservice. I think they did a disservice to the company by not pulling the trigger
Well,
on
they
him a
kept
little bit
giving it
sooner.
to John Moxley.
Yeah.
Well, I love Mox. I absolutely love his work outside of the
Yeah.
fact that he bleeds almost every single match a bit too much, and he's
Yeah.
he's Mox.
You're
But
not a
I
fan of the
still
skewers?
they push it too far with him. He
Yeah.
pushes it too far, I should say,
Hey,
because he's the one
everything
that
in
fixes that
abundance
up.
can get old. Yeah.
Yep.
So anything you do like that over and over repetitively, like it's like you're not going to put a steel cage match on every episode of Monday Night Raw.
No, I
You know what
agree.
I mean?
Yeah, it's overkill.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody's always like, well, how long until Mox is going to be bleeding this time? Well, let's find out. Count the seconds. One.
Hey, that
He's
comment
bleeding.
busted him open.
Exactly. If you're memeing
Yeah.
over it, there's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, right. You don't ever really want to become a meme. And I think that's just the thing is like this isn't someone's gonna clip this maybe in the future and say, oh,
I
they
hope
said
so.
they love AEW, but they're crapping all over it.
I
It's
will
not
crap over everything.
it's not that. It's begging for more. It's begging for consistency. You've got Miro on Collision somehow revisiting that Redeemer story in a sense now that his wife is on the show. And again,
Shoot, man.
I
Her promos
I didn't
are
watch
fire.
I didn't watch when he was Rusev because I wasn't a fan during that time. And when he came into AEW as Miro, I didn't care for him. The whole game over thing, it was okay. It just wasn't for me. But that Redeemer story drew me in, right? And
Right.
somehow he's revisiting this, but it's him doing it. I know it's him that's creating all this stuff because that's just something he's even mentioned that he's come up with. And so the point I'm making here is Miro's on Collision. I want to see him every week, or for the most part, the majority 90% of the time on Collision. He doesn't have to be there every week,
I think
but he's
going
got
forward
to
it
be
will.
featured. Well, I'm just saying everyone deserves some time off, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, like we don't put Miro on there with the story of I forsaken you, or whatever the story right now is with his wife. But and then just all of a sudden he's gone. Like where'd he go? Then that's kind of what they do. Like Wardlow again, going back to him or Andrade. Andrade's back and he's on Collision
Where's
and
Brian Cage?
where wait he's a jobber
Where is
on
he?
Wednesday nights when they need him to make someone look good.
And that's
And
the problem.
that's the problem is like him or hate him. Okay, his promo skills are, bro, I could name 50 wrestlers probably off the top of my head in WWE and AEW combined that don't have great promo skills either.
Oh,
He's great
absolutely.
in the ring. And when he showed up, even with Taz, 100% overshadowing him, standing in front of him during promos, it was almost like Taz was the wrestler and Cage was his muscle. It was almost like a Christian Cage Luchasaurus dynamic, except Taz
Yeah.
wasn't a wrestler. And it was working for a year. The guy went undefeated and they even protected him because it just made sense. It was working. They had Taz throw in the towel against Mox. And then that main event he had on Dynamite with Darby Allin, I remember that. I mean, first of all, you got to remember a Darby Allin match. There's going to be some spot in there where you're
Yep.
like, he's going to die. But
That poor
it was a
kid.
fan, and even Brian Cage losing that match worked. It made sense, and he did a great job. It was a well done match, but it's not consistent. And then all of a sudden, I guess the reason really is because his wife also didn't like his eventual booking, which that's another thing we could rant about. But
We're
like,
not going to rant about that right
we're
now
not
on
going to
this
go into
episode
that. No, we're not going to go into
because
that.
there's so much
Time is
more to
up.
rant about. There's so much more to talk about
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Punk being fired, Joy, or if
yeah,
you're happy or not.
yeah,
WWE's success during the time
yeah.
when everyone else is basically failing on live TV. You got ticket sales through the roof for WWE. You have ticket sales with Wembley that broke a historical record, which is
Yep.
amazing. And I think they need to utilize that constantly and say it constantly. But they also messed up and they should have been able to capitalize on that success, and they definitely
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah.
AEW
They
has
also
some.
ran two pay-per-views a week
Oh
apart
man,
from each other.
a
That was
week
not a good
apart, and that was
idea.
a terrible idea
Not a good idea.
from a business standpoint. It was a
Yeah.
bad idea. They did do a great show, from what I
Mhm.
hear. I watched some of it,
Oh yeah.
and I missed the majority of it, unfortunately. But I heard it was a good show wrestling wise.
Yeah.
But where's the stories, man? Where are the angles? I mean, you, I just don't see it with AEW, and I want them to have that. I want them to push the boundaries, and I would
Agreed.
love for this to turn into something where it's like, oh, WWE and AEW are on the same day and night,
Yeah.
and it kind of rekindles that love that I had of the Monday Night Wars. I know it. I shouldn't ask for that. I really shouldn't, but I would love to have it. I would love to see it because I would love for the new generation of wrestling fans to experience what I had to experience when I had to flip channels just to catch both, one show or the other when one.
I remember that.
Break.
I remember
And
that.
those
I
were some
remember.
crazy good times.
Yep.
But it's
If
not like
Goldberg
that
was
anymore.
on, I was watching Goldberg. If Kane was
Huge
on, I was
fan.
watching Kane,
Huge fan of Goldberg when I was
Yeah.
younger.
When I was
The
younger.
guy was just insanely good at just being a
Something to
powerhouse.
watch. Yeah, he was a
star.
spectacle.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. People talk about his matches, but like he says something is in his interviews that you have to listen to these people speak.
Right.
Just that he didn't book himself. He literally did a football tackle and came back, and they said do that every match. That's where the spear was born.
Yep.
They created that finish for him, which was the jackhammer, and they're like, make this guy leave people wanting more, right? And that's the thing. There was his story. He was this undefeated hybrid wrestler, mixed martial art football player type wrestler. There's a story in the guy. It's right there. The story's there. Dare I say, Darby Allin has probably got the best. Him and MJF probably have the most defined character / embedded stories in AEW. And that's just what we're asking for. And all this to say, probably some very important context for someone listening / watching this. I don't care about story. I'm a wrestling watcher. I usually skip all the
Boo.
story. I am, bro. I swear. I don't care a lot about the story. I care more as an adult now. When
That's
I was
good.
a kid, didn't care about the story at all. As an adult, I appreciate it. I'll watch it because I want to know it now. But I still am an in-ring person. But as from the business side of things and from the rest of the world, they need that story. Most people need that story. They have to be attached to something. Cody Rhodes just did an interview, and he even said the same thing. He said most people, these weren't his exact words, and maybe he didn't like say this, but it was kind of to be alluded to, is that hard times promo that his father did. People remember that, and they may not even know what match it's attached to, and that's true. People
Yep.
remember many of the promos. People remember Austin 316, but if I'm not on YouTube, I don't know where that was truly born. I know of Becky Lynch as the man. I don't actually know where that totally was born into per se. And so that's what's
Nia
critical
Jax,
in wrestling. Nia Jax punching her in the face, right, in the audience, and here's Becky Lynch bloody, and there's the man
King
is
of the
born.
Ring for Austin.
Story. There it is. There's a story there.
Always the story.
It's
And
always a story.
that's what makes wrestling amazing.
Yes.
The fighting, the wrestling
Yeah.
is wonderful, but it's secondary to the story that leads to the actual match,
Yes.
which is supposed to, on TV, build towards the big match at
Yes.
a
The
pay-per-view or
pay-per-view.
PLE.
Yep. PLE.
And that's something that AEW needs to just work on.
I agree. And I think another guy who, again, not really during my time, I know who he was because I used to kind of keep an eye on TNA, but I know he was a WWE writer for a while too, is Vince Russo. And a lot of people don't care for him. That's fine. But I would definitely encourage everyone to check out his interview with Chris Van Vliet. I think that's how you say his last name, Van Vliet.
No idea.
He speaks a lot about story, and one of the things he says is their job was to always to create a compelling, captivating story. And he makes a comment in that interview where he talks about Monday Night Raw. He's watching Monday Night Raw, and he says the main event's going on at 10:30. He's like, "You're going to give us 30 minutes of wrestling?" He's like, "That's just not on a TV show." He's like, "Says what you just said. The TV shows are for the story. You got to have matches." But the matches have to build the story. That's why, and again, I'm an in-ring person. I like the in-ring stuff, but like that's why you have so many matches on TV where they end with a roll-up or
Right.
or interference,
not a false finish, but yeah, interference,
a DQ, count out. Yeah,
we just don't see that enough anymore. Honestly, we just don't. Everybody wants a clean finish, but you shouldn't have a clean finish all the time on TV.
Not in a long story. Yep. And that's the thing with AEW is if you take a match. No, you're right. And if you watch an AEW match, and let's say there's a story brewing between like a Bryan Danielson and a, whoever else you want to pick out there, they'll put them in a match and one of them will win clean. As far as I'm concerned, the story's over. It's over. Right. He already won. This isn't MMA. And I've been watching MMA for much longer at this stage than I've been watching wrestling. But you have to understand this is not MMA. Wins and losses do matter, in my opinion, but it's not MMA. You can't just have Bryan Danielson tap someone out and then expect someone to buy that pay-per-view. He already won. Yeah. Unless there was something
he already tapped that guy out once.
Yeah.
Why can't he do it again at a pay-per-view?
Story's over.
Why am I spending $50-$60 on this pay-per-view for something I just saw free on TV?
Story's over.
Yeah.
So
that's what it comes down to. Story. AEW growth would be wonderful to see right now. The talent deserve it. The company itself deserves success, just like WWE deserves to continue to thrive, and the talent deserve to continue to showcase how great they are, and especially like NXT is doing spectacular. HBK, Booker of the Year, promoter of the year. He is everything of the year right now because he is killing it in NXT. And if you're not watching NXT, you need to just stop what you're doing, go catch up on the WWE Network or on Peacock TV. Go watch. That's a free plug as well. I am not getting paid for that. I wish I was.
Stinks.
God, I wish I was. Oh my God.
Hey, listen, you bring up a good point though, and let's be real. So NXT, as far as the visual is concerned, is not very much different than an Impact. I mean, it's brighter, it's got the WWE feel to it, but as far as Impact might have more people in the audience, maybe not by much, but they have
Maybe.
not a very different number of people in the audience. So from the viewer's perspective, for someone like me, I'm watching this going, this is not a big show. This is because they can't fill arenas for NXT, which is not true.
Disagree with
That's
that.
not the case. That's just where they film in the same location so that their wrestlers can be at the developmental centers and wrestle and live in Orlando and have that consistency to train and do all their work too without having the worry of traveling, right?
Right.
So, but going back to what you're saying, HBK with NXT, they're averaging very close to 700,000 viewers in these last few months.
They're
They're getting
catching up
close
to
to
Dynamite, man.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
So
Insane.
every person, including Triple H, should be taking notes as to how you do that with 1,000 people in your audience, whereas AEW is fitting 3 to 7 on a Dynamite. So what I want you to finish this up because again, you know more about the business side of things than I do, and you've been watching since day one. And I certainly was not watching AEW in its early days. But here's where I'm going with this. So AEW, it looks like their debut show was 1.4 mil. And it looks like after that, they averaged actually pretty low, which nobody seems to talk about. People keep talking about that mill, but they were not a mill show. So I'm looking at rarely hitting 1 million viewers. I'm looking a lot of 700s, 800, very, very high range in viewership, right? And I'd say there
Yeah.
came a time during like 2020, early 2021 where they were like 950 to 750, something like that. 2021 you'd see these dips, and then I'm looking at some numbers where granted they aired at 10 p.m. for 60, and then towards the end of 2021 they actually popped over 1 mil for a few straight weeks. But then they dropped back down to their 575, 700. So anyway, where I'm going with this is AEW Dynamite has kind of always had the numbers that they've had now, but you can see it's sort of trending downwards. So what is it in your eyes, in your mind, since AEW kind of started to get hot, right? Which I'd say was probably more 2021. They got
Right.
hot and they started to touch that mill and even exceed it and probably averaged a lot closer to it than they do now. What is that? And compared to like an NXT who on the USA Network never really hit that, and they're starting to hit that. So what is it that NXT is doing now that AEW seems to have done in the past that they're struggling with now? And if you could wrap us up, we'll finish with
Exactly
this.
what we were talking about. Stories.
What were
Where
the
where
big
are the stories,
stories
bro?
then? What were the
Where
stories?
are
Because
they?
I wasn't watching.
Well, you need to watch NXT right now. Okay,
Well, in
talk about the
AEW,
stories.
right?
What
What were the
AEW
stories
stories?
that were?
None.
But what was making them run hot?
They
Was it just
had
the allure?
the allure. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It was the people, the talent that were
fresh.
there were putting, were getting bigger and bigger, and then
Yeah,
I don't know, something happened where the stories just kind of it wasn't
they
enough.
didn't matter
Or
anymore, or
maybe
just
that
maybe
was the end of the honeymoon phase, maybe.
okay.
Fans were like, "Okay, this is great, 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 great. We have a secondary promotion. We're finally getting what we want, which is more wrestling."
Yeah,
But that's not bringing in the viewers,
okay.
and
Yeah,
there was no good stories going on. There still
yeah,
isn't really any good stories outside of MJF and Adam Cole, baby.
yep,
And they're working on it. I feel like I think there is more coming.
yeah.
And I when I watch Dynamite, I watch with an open mind, of course,
Absolutely.
as everybody should. I
Should.
just get so disappointed throughout the show because yeah, the wrestlers are great, they're talented, they're athletic, they can really go.
But it
But
all gets old,
why
right?
are they
If
going?
every episode looks like a pay-per-view in a way with a lot of wrestling.
Right. Well, what's the point of buying the pay per view? What am I watching
That's
for?
fair.
Why are they fighting? Is
Yeah.
this just a grudge match? Is it personal hatred? What's going on?
Yeah. What's
There's
the
nothing.
story, right?
Yeah. And at
Yeah,
the end
and
of
I
the day,
think
this
yeah.
is a soap opera. This is
Yes.
a soap opera for men or and
Yeah.
women. Okay. It's just when you take that soap opera and take the opera part out and you're just stuck with this silly soap that's slipping everywhere and you call yourself AEW and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess looking at these ratings, it does make sense, right? You go back in time, and you're talking about a time when people were genuinely frustrated. WWE Universe and IWC seem to be agreeing. They were frustrated with what was happening with WWE. Although I thought the Thunderdome era was okay, it was almost like coming out of that the
It
problem
actually
began for
wasn't
some
that
reason.
bad.
It was okay. It was pretty
I
good once they
enjoyed the
put those screens
cinematic
up.
matches that came out of
Yeah.
it. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. And
And as a fan, I mean, yeah, it's hard to watch some wrestling without fans in the attendance because they create
yeah.
that feeling, that power, the
Yeah.
energy. Okay, that energy is there, but they made the best of a sticky situation,
Yeah.
and I think they came out on top. While AEW kind of just didn't. They did
Yeah.
not.
And that makes sense. And again, we'll wrap this up and just kind of reiterate like nobody more than me wants AEW to succeed. And I'm not even someone who religiously watches it every single week. It's not even that. It's just I want people to have work. I want to enjoy the product more. And I'll be honest, every time I put it on, my wife, even more so than me, is like, we should watch this more regularly because it's just great wrestling. It's a bit more intense in a lot of ways, and there's just a lot more happening sometimes in terms of the wrestling than you catch with WWE. But there again, even me, there's just not enough. Like I don't necessarily know what's going on, and it can be hard to keep up with. So I feel like Undertaker made a comment at one point. You don't want to stick around long enough to become a parody of yourself. And I know we're not there yet with AEW, but it's kind of to the point now where I'd almost rather catch highlights. And I feel
Yeah, almost.
almost rather, and then pick
And
and
you're gonna
choose a
get the
match
same
here or there.
feeling with from the highlights. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. I think.
Yeah.
What a what an experience though for
Yeah.
it is to watch a live AEW show compared
Yeah.
to the TV. It's such a different feeling. Like I had
Yeah.
so much fun in January of the this year actually. January 1st, I think it was. Or no, January 4th when they came and they put on a show and Seattle ate it up.
See,
And
that's
then
another interesting thing too. And
but new market. That's the thing. It was a new market.
new market, but that was another thing too. Is when you watch AEW, you really have to appreciate the fans because they care a little bit more. And I'm just like, it just this is why I'm like pleading for more, is because it's almost like it's just not translating into more viewers, and that's confusing in some ways to me because when you watch it, you're like, I want to go. Like every time I watch AEW,
Yes.
I'm like, I want to go to. I'd almost rather go to an AEW show. I'd probably rather go to an AEW Dynamite than I would like a Raw. Maybe not a PLE. PLEs are fun,
Oh
but
my God,
like
you have
Dynamite is just there's a freaking energy there. You know,
nah nah.
AEW
Look, I
energy's
went to SmackDown like literally a month after Dynamite. Okay,
yeah.
in Portland, Oregon, and man, the energy there was off the charts. But
Was it? It was good.
it was insane. It's the same
Yeah.
as going to the AEW show. The fans
Okay.
make it very very fun and
It's all
energetic.
about the fans.
Even if it doesn't translate well on TV, like before the show even starts, getting into the stadium, the random chants that the fans like to start, man, it's crazy. It's fun, and
Yeah.
you should start going more. That's why I'm going to Wrestle Dream because it's gonna
Oh,
be
you're
fun.
gonna have a blast,
I,
dude. You got Zack Sabre and Brian Danielson. Like, I want to go. Like,
I'm
that
going to
match is
enjoy
gonna be
myself, and you will see me
ridiculous.
in on TV or on the
Yeah,
show wearing my other mask, which I'm gonna work on, you know,
my man.
fixing up, cleaning up. Gonna put some markings on it.
Yeah,
Or maybe I'll
cool.
go in this one. I don't know yet, but probably this one.
Well, the
But
fans can look forward to seeing the Masked J at
yeah, and
Wrestle
hopefully
Dream.
someday, Froggy. We'll go Froggy.
Yeah, Frog Jones will show up at one of
Frog
these too.
Jones.
We'll get there. The last
We're
time I
gonna get
bought
there.
tickets to a WWE event, I think my wife and I got sick. No, my son Liam, he got sick, and we didn't know what to do, and it because it was only a couple days out, and then they announced John Cena like a few days before the event, and we just resold him and like profited off of it, which was not the goal. Like we wanted to go,
Right.
but it was like, oh, thank you, John Cena, for giving us a lot of money for these tickets. But I see the timer. We got to go. We're going to wrap this up. So I'm going to just say this again. I mean, this has been a lot of fun for me. We're going to do this weekly. Tune in.
Yeah.
We're going to have a blast talking about more topics. This being episode 1 and the first time you and I have actually sat down and had this much time.
Oh my God.
We
Right.
we covered so much. So we're going to focus a little
Not
bit more
enough.
next time. There's so much more to talk about. And yeah, thanks everyone who chooses to watch this, listen to this, and
Yeah. Thank you
look forward
guys.
to some more.
Appreciate it, hands down. I really
Yeah.
do. Share, spread the love.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed us, great. If you have constructive criticism, absolutely great too. Please just
Yeah. We
let us
love it.
know.
Yep.
All right.
And
Thank
look
you guys.
forward to chatting with all you guys. Again, I am at the Fog Jones, and then the Mass J is at underscore wrestle, which is underscore WRSTL. We're gonna also be doing some more community stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've got a brand new Discord that you are putting together
Yep.
that will eventually be visible for everyone to come join and chat with us at all times. We're going to be working on setting up like a fan tip thing if you want to support us so that we can invest back into the podcast and the Discord and other things to keep this community growing. And yeah, we look forward to just meeting all these different people and chatting with a lot of you and talking
Oh yeah,
wrestling,
and
man.
we'll have
Talking
interviews
wrestling.
soon.
Yep, we're going to
Interviews
do
pretty
interviews. We're
damn
going to have
soon.
guest stars.
We got the Black Dahlia. She's gonna be coming on
Yep.
board. I'll work on
Yep.
getting Rob Fee maybe. Natalia. I'll
Natalia,
talk to
man.
Matt Morgan, see if he wants to
Yep.
jump in and pop in. I know his the second airing of his podcast just dropped as we were in the middle of recording this.
Ah, cool. I'll have to check that out.
Gigantic Pop. Go check
Yep.
that out
Another
too, guys.
cheap plug, bro.
Cheap
We're
plug for
collecting
Raj and
$0.
Matt and Glenn. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll do cheap
It's a good
pops that are
podcast.
somewhat free most of the time. As long
Yeah,
as they just
it's a good podcast.
return the favor.
Yeah,
I'm looking at you, Raj.
Raj Giri, he's the man, isn't he?
The
Oh,
man that
cool.
pissing off the fans. I love it.
I love it too.
All
All right,
right,
guys. We
guys.
will
Thank
talk to
you.
you next week.